Silver has value, and it's like gold. It's a precious metal, and it can be used to barter and can be used as cash. And Judas, one of Jesus's 12 apostles, who had been with him for 3 years, wasn't always who he thought he was. He thought he was a faithful follower of Jesus, but then greed and selfishness came into his life, and as a result, he became a petty thief. He used to be in charge of the money for the apostles, and every once in a while he would dip into the treasury and take some for himself. But then the need for greed became so great that he was willing to give up his friendship with Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. So at the Passover meal, Judas is gathered around with all the other apostles, and they're taking part in the Seder supper. And Jesus, when he breaks the bread, he passes it around to all the apostles. And then he said, "One of you will betray me this evening." And each of the apostles said, "Is it me? Lord, is it going to be me?" And then when Judas came and says, "Lord, is it going to be me?" Jesus simply said, "You have said so." And then what does he do? He leaves the room, he goes out, and he sells Jesus to the priests for 30 pieces of silver. Meanwhile, all the apostles think that he's going out to do charity. He's going to do something that Jesus wanted to do with the money that he had to give to the poor. Judas then comes and he betrays Jesus in the garden. He helps them drag him back to the priests. And then Judas gets a moment of revelation, an aha moment, a eureka moment, and he realizes what he's just done. That he's betrayed the best friend he could have ever had for 30 pieces of silver. And then, to complicate matters, he didn't have faith enough to believe in the mercy of Jesus, so he goes out and commits suicide by hanging himself. Now, there was another example of betrayal that same evening, but it didn't turn out to be the same way. Peter was with Jesus at the Garden of Gethsemane, and after Jesus was taken to the high priests, he goes to the garden. Although he's in fear and trembling for his own life, he doesn't want to really be seen because he's afraid. And he sees Jesus being taken in front of the priests and being condemned and being lied about. But he's there. He's by a fire. And somebody comes up to him and says, "We saw you with Jesus. You're one of his disciples." And Peter says, "No, I don't know the man." And a little later, someone else came by and said, "Yeah, you were with him. We know you were with him." And again, Peter says, "No, I don't know the man. I do not know that man." And then a servant girl comes and says, "You were with Jesus because you have a Galilean accent, and so does he." Peter says, "No, I do not know that man. I do not know him." And then he has his aha moment, his eureka moment, and he goes away crying because he knows what he just did. He just betrayed his best friend. Betrayal is one of the most hard things in this world to understand. How somebody you love, you can turn around and have them deny you. Peter, however, unlike Judas, did not give up on the mercy of God. And he went away. He did not commit suicide, but he believed. And after the resurrection, Jesus again comes to Peter. And this time, he doesn't confront him because of his betrayal and lash out at him or criticize him or punish him. No, he simply says to Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "Of course I love you, Jesus." And then again, a second time, he says, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yeah, I love you, Jesus." Then a third time he says, "Peter, Peter, do you really, really love me?" And Peter gets annoyed. Why would he ask him 3 times? do you love me? And again, Peter says, of course I love you, Jesus. And this was to, in a sense, remind Peter of the 3 times that he denied him at the time that he was taken as a prisoner. Yes, Peter believed and he was forgiven. Judas did not believe, but he was forgiven. Betrayal is an awful thing. And when you do this to someone you love deeply, what kind of hurt must that be to the person who's been betrayed? And Jesus knows that. He hangs on his cross and he looks down at all the people that he has helped in his life. And he sees the people he's cured and the people who's passed out demons from and the people who rose from the dead, standing at the bottom of the cross, yelling, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And he asks, what have I done to have these people betray me? All I did was give them my very best. And there is no greater love than to give up one's life for one's friends. And that's what Jesus did for us. And we betray Jesus every time we commit sin. Every time we give into evil. Every time we reject good. And he hangs there and he sees that. But he's willing to forgive us because he's an all-loving, all-merciful God. And the Father forgives us also. And so when we look at betrayal, we can look at the 2 people, Judas and Peter. And which one are we going to be like? Are we going to be like Judas, who is full of pride and selfishness and greed in our betrayal? Or are we going to be like Peter, who, yes, makes betrayals because we give into our faults and failings and sins, but know that God is a merciful God and that Jesus died for us to give us mercy.